Hey everyone, thank you so much for clicking on this level up video for the hierarchy window in Unity. Now this video is going to be super quick because we were going to talk about object categories in the hierarchy window in this video, but we ended up talking about them in the basics video. Now if you haven't seen the basics video, I recommend going back and watching it. There's a link at the end of this video that you can click on to get there, or it'll also be down in the description. Now let's get started. So just a real quick recap of what we talked about in the basics video. We talked about creating objects using the hierarchy window. We also talked about object categories such as the scene category and the do not destroy on load category. We also talked about renaming objects in the hierarchy, reorganizing objects in the hierarchy, parent and child relationships, and also focusing on objects in the hierarchy. Now there's a few more things I wanted to talk about in this video. So first off, we did talk about object categories in the basics video, but there's an additional feature that we didn't mention, and that is this drop-down menu here next to our scene category. Now this drop-down menu has a number of different options. You can set active scene, you can save scene, you can save scene as, you can save all, you can unload scene, remove scene, discard changes, you can select scene assets, you can add new scene. So it looks like this game object option is the same menu as this create drop-down menu here. So let's go ahead and test creating a new game object. I'm just going to create an empty, and there you go. You can now add game objects through that drop-down menu there. So there are a number of ways to create game objects using the hierarchy. And if I wanted to save scenes, I could hit save scene, and there we go. It saved all the changes to the scene. Now the last thing that we wanted to talk about in this level up video is the different text colors that you might find in the hierarchy. So currently we just have a bunch of black colored text objects in the hierarchy. This is the default color for active game objects in the hierarchy. Now the next color that you might find is a gray color or a faded color. Now this happens anytime you have a game object that has been deactivated. So if I select, let's say, our player, up here in the inspector you can see this blue box with the check mark in it. This is the check mark to activate and deactivate objects. Now we'll talk more about this when we get into game objects in a later video. But if I were to deactivate this object, you can now see that the player object and all the child objects underneath the player have been deactivated, and the text of these objects in the hierarchy is now a gray color or a faded color. I'm going to reactivate my player object to talk about the next color. Now the next color that you might find is blue. Now blue represents what's called a prefab. Now a prefab is a game object that you've created and then saved into your file system. So for example, if I were to take our player object and click on him, drag him into the assets folder of our project window, I've now just created a prefab, and you can see all the information about the prefab in the inspector. Now in the hierarchy, our player and as well all the child objects to the player have changed from its black color to blue. And the final color that we wanted to talk about that you'll find in the hierarchy is red. Now red represents a broken prefab. So if I were to click on the prefab asset that we've created in the assets folder and delete it from our assets folder, it'll then change the text of our font to a red color because this object once represented a prefab and now it doesn't. Now it's actually really hard to see. It used to be a lot easier to see that these texts are red. It's like a really dark red. But if I select the player object, you might be able to make out that it is like a faint pink color now. It's kind of funny because I used to feel like the blue and the red were a lot more vibrant, but maybe they toned it down in a recent update. So that's everything that we wanted to talk about in this level up video for the hierarchy window in Unity. Now if you missed the basics video for the hierarchy window, I recommend you click on that at the end of this video. Hope you were able to follow along and that nothing was confusing. If you have any questions, make sure that you leave them in the comments below. Also make sure that you like this video and subscribe to our channel so you can get regular updates when we release new content. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.